There is a whisper that lives in the silence, a voice that isn't born from thought, but from the vast stillness beneath it. Some call it intuition, some call it divine connection, others call it madness. Yet every soul that seeks truth eventually reaches the same threshold. Am I truly channeling something greater, or am I just pretending? This question isn't small. It's the turning point between awakening and illusion, between truth and delusion. Many have felt that inner current, a sudden rush of wisdom, a flow of words, an unseen presence speaking through the heart. But just as many have mistaken their own desires, their own echoes of ego, for the voice of the infinite. The difference between channeling and pretending is not visible to the eye. It's not found in what is said, but in where it comes from. To understand this, we must walk deeper, beyond the surface of thought, beyond the performance of spirituality, into the silence where truth reveals itself. Part 1. What channeling really is true. Channeling is not an act of creation, it is an act of surrender. It is not about summoning a voice, but dissolving the noise that blocks it. To channel is to become transparent, a clear vessel through which consciousness itself can move, like wind flowing through an open flute, producing a sound that doesn't belong to the instrument, but to the air that breathes through it. When you are channeling, you are not doing. You are being done through. Words, insights, energies. They arise unplanned, untouched by the filters of logic or expectation. They carry a vibration that feels older than you, wiser than you, freer than anything you could invent. Channeling is the art of becoming empty enough for the universe to speak. But this emptiness is not passive. It is alive, awake, and deeply aware. The one who channels is present, not lost in trance, but sharply conscious of the stillness that holds them. Real channeling feels weightless. There is no strain, no effort, no sense of I am special. Instead, there is humility, a quiet awe at being used by something vast and pure. When you are channeling truth, you can feel it vibrating through every cell. The energy carries coherence, harmony, and peace. Even when the message itself challenges you, it does not flatter your ego. It does not perform. It simply is. Channeling is the silent recognition that consciousness is one vast field. And when you stop identifying as a single drop, the entire ocean can move through you. Part 2. The shadow of pretending. But then there is pretending, the unconscious mimicry of channeling. Pretending does not mean lying intentionally. Most people who pretend to channel don't even realize they're doing it. They are moved by a subtle hunger, a desire to feel chosen, wise, powerful, or spiritually advanced. Pretending is born when the ego puts on the mask of spirit. The words might sound profound, but their vibration betrays them. They are dressed in light but carry the scent of control, validation, or self-importance. When pretending, one is not transparent. One is acting. The energy flows from the mind, not the heart. It is carefully constructed, not naturally revealed. The false channel speaks to be believed. The true channel speaks because it cannot stay silent. Pretending tries to recreate the spontaneous rhythm of divine flow. It borrows the language of transcendence, the higher self, the guides, the frequency, but without the living pulse behind it. It feels hollow, like a song that knows the melody, but not the soul of the music. The pretending mind often begins in innocence. It craves connection, wants to be a vessel, longs to feel purpose. But instead of dissolving into presence, it constructs a performance of it. It copies the signs of awakening, the serene voice, the cryptic words, yet remains trapped inside the very identity that must dissolve for channeling to be real. And so, many drift into the illusion of channeling, not as deceivers, but as dreamers who mistake imagination for transmission. Imagination is powerful. It can mimic almost anything. It can even simulate the divine. But the divine does not need simulation. Pretending arises from lack. Channeling arises from wholeness. When you are pretending, you want something from the experience. Attention, certainty, validation, belonging. When you are channeling, you want nothing. You are simply the silence giving birth to sound. Part 3. The fine line between truth and illusion. The line between channeling and pretending is thinner than breath. It is not always easy to tell which side you stand on, especially when both can feel profound. So how do you know? The difference lives in your state of consciousness. Channeling does not happen in noise. It happens in stillness. If the mind is restless, the message will reflect that restlessness. If the heart is clear, the voice will be clear. True channeling requires purification, not of morals or rituals, but of identity. You cannot channel what you are still trying to control. Pretending, on the other hand, often feels like excitement, an emotional high, a flood of imagination, a trance of significance. It might even come with physical sensations or visions. Yet underneath, there is attachment, a hidden need to prove that something special is happening. When the ego is involved, the energy becomes distorted. The flow turns from transparent to tinted. You might still receive information, but it will be filtered through desire, fear, or belief. Truth doesn't need to impress. It doesn't exaggerate. It doesn't demand belief. It simply resonates. When channeling, the message feels bigger than you, but also entirely you. There is unity between the speaker and the source. When pretending, there is separation, a sense that I am channeling something else. That division itself is the illusion. The awakened channel knows there is no other voice. The voice of the divine is the voice of your highest consciousness, not outside of you, but through you. The fine line is crossed the moment you forget this, when you begin to think of yourself as the chosen vessel instead of the open sky. To truly channel is to disappear as a channeled one. Part 4. Signs you are channeling and not faking it. Real channeling carries certain unmistakable signs, not external, but inner ones. First, there is peace, even when the message is intense. The vibration behind the words is balanced, coherent, calm. There is no rush, no anxiety, no attempt to sound wise. The words simply arrive whole. Second, you remember little of what you said. The conscious mind often steps aside. It does not vanish, but it observes as something deeper speaks through. When the transmission ends, there is often a silence, a sacred afterglow, as if the space itself has spoken. Third, there is humility. The more genuine the channel, the less personal credit they take. They do not say, I gave this message. They say, this message came. Fourth, the message carries timelessness. It doesn't merely tell people what to believe, it awakens something within them. It doesn't instruct, it activates. Fifth, real channeling aligns with truth. It never manipulates, never divides, never demands worship. It empowers. It reminds listeners of their own connection, rather than claiming authority over it. Sixth, after true channeling, you feel emptied, not drained, but cleared. There is no craving for praise, no attachment to being seen as special. Instead, you feel a quiet gratitude, a reverence for the sacredness that moved through you. This is how you know. Real channeling leaves light behind, not noise. Pretending leaves confusion. Channeling leaves clarity. Part 5. The dangers of false channeling. Every light casts a shadow, and in the realm of channeling, that shadow is deception. Not from others, but from within. False channeling is not simply being wrong. It is the distortion of truth by unconscious motives. It happens when the mind learns the rhythm of spiritual language, but not the silence behind it. The danger is subtle because the words of false channeling can sound perfect. They can even inspire. But beneath the beauty, there is dissonance, a hidden pull toward ego, attention, or control. When someone believes they are channeling but are actually projecting their own unhealed aspects, the messages become mirrors of their inner conflict. They begin to speak from wounds instead of wisdom. The false channel often claims exclusivity. I alone receive this truth. That is the first sign of distortion. Truth does not belong to a single mouth. It belongs to the field that births all mouths. The second danger is emotional dependency. When one begins to depend on the channeling to feel important, they lose the ability to discern. They start feeding the illusion because it gives them identity. The third danger is influence. Others who hear false channeling may attach themselves to it, believing it is divine when it is actually the echo of another's pain dressed in light. This is why integrity is. Part 6. Awakening the real connection. To awaken real connection, you must first return to silence. Not the silence of sound, but the silence of identity. Sit with yourself without seeking voices, visions, or guidance. Let the need to receive dissolve. What remains is pure presence, awareness without movement. This is the space where channeling begins. Real connection is not about reaching higher realms. It is about descending deeply into being. The divine does not whisper from the clouds, it rises from within. When the mind becomes transparent, when thoughts slow, when attention anchors in the now, the channel opens naturally. There is no ceremony grand enough to replace this simple purity of awareness. You begin to notice, inspiration comes not as a foreign voice, but as a natural unfolding. The words, ideas, and insights that emerge are drenched in peace. They do not come to you, they come as you. This is the paradox of real channeling. You are both the messenger and the message. To awaken this connection, you must cultivate discernment, humility, and neutrality. Discernment keeps the signal clear. You learn to feel the vibration of truth, not the glitter of illusion. You become sensitive to the subtle difference between what flows and what is forced. Humility keeps the channel open. The moment you believe I am chosen, you close the gate. The real channel knows they are no more special than the wind that carries the song, and neutrality keeps the message pure. When you are not emotionally entangled with what you receive, you allow truth to pass unedited. Real channeling is not about ascension, it is about presence. It is the art of getting out of the way. When you live in alignment, when your thoughts, words, and actions harmonize with love, the universe doesn't need to speak to you anymore. It speaks as you. That is the ultimate awakening, to realize the channel and the source are not two. Part 7. The integration of channeling. Channeling is not an escape from the world. It is the merging of spirit and matter. Many mistake channeling for transcendence, as if the purpose were to leave the human behind. But the real purpose is embodiment. When you channel truth, you bring heaven into the body. You anchor invisible light into visible form. You become a bridge between the infinite and the finite. Integration means living what you channel. It's not enough to speak wisdom. You must breathe it, walk it, become it. The universe does not measure channeling by eloquence, but by embodiment. The highest transmissions are not spoken, they are lived. Every act of kindness, every moment of awareness, every choice made in love. That is the real message. When you integrate channeling, your daily life becomes the sermon. The divine no longer visits you, it abides in you. And in that state, you no longer seek to channel. You simply listen, not to external voices, but to the unfolding intelligence that guides every step. You begin to see that the tree, the breath, the eyes of another, all of it is the channel. All of it is speaking. Integration turns spirituality from performance into presence. The sacred ceases to be an experience and becomes existence itself. That is the final maturity of a channel. When you no longer identify as one, you have dissolved into the current that speaks through all things. So, are you channeling or just pretending? The answer is not found in words, but in the silence that watches them. Pretending speaks from identity. Channeling speaks from infinity. Pretending performs. Channeling simply is. The true channel is not a chosen prophet, not a vessel for a distant god. The true channel is the awakened human, the one who has remembered that the divine never stops speaking. It speaks through breath, through intuition, through the rhythm of your heartbeat. It has always been there, waiting for you to get quiet enough to listen. Channeling is not about hearing voices from elsewhere. It is about hearing the one voice that has never left.